made contact with the Indian Motorcycle Company. And Indian really showed an interest in wanting to diversify their motorcycle business and go into outboard motors. And what ended up happening was Graham Pryor sold out to Indian Motorcycle Company in around October of 1929. And
just
Robert
before
Ray
the crash.
was so proud of that. We were sitting at this oak desk, and he was showing me stuff. He looked at me with the greatest sincerity, and he said, "Bill, we sold out that whole outboard motor business to them for $15,000. And in a sense, I mean, it doesn't seem like very much money, but in October of 1929, they got out of it. They got out of a business that wasn't going to make them any money, basically, and sold it to Indian, who really thought that they can light the world on fire with their new Indian Silver Arrow outboard motor. And so that's why they look the same. That's why, you know, when you look at this Indian, it looks very similar to the three other Hartford Sturdy twins here. So that's a little bit of the history of all that. But we can talk about now some other details that...
Like looks are deceiving?
Yeah, well, you know, we know from some experience, and let's start with the Hartfords now.
Hot engine.
They were, you know, really a product right out of George Pryor's mind. The company history shows that at some point they purchased a Lockwood twin outboard motor. And that Lockwood twin would have been a what's called a 62T, or a 1926 Lockwood twin. And I'm not sure quite what they did with it, but whether they used it or not, but they probably derived some ideas from it. So at some point, George Pryor designed the Hartford Sturdy twin.
And that would have been this one right here?
This one's actually an early one. This is the fourth one ever made.
This one right here?
That's the fourth one ever made.
Okay.
And certainly I have, you know, part of the, I guess, privilege of you know, being at that company was I ended up with
So how did you end up with this fourth one here? That's a nice engine.
yeah, it is. Well, it wasn't nice when I got it. I mean,
Oh,
it was
okay.
a mess. So So part of working there, I was able to get access to company records. And this is the outboard production sheet for 1927. And this outboard is actually this one here.
Shipped to.
Number 4 of 27. And it was shipped.
You suppose any of these people still have any of these?
I've chased them down.
Yeah,
and they're all dead.
Well, maybe it's up in their attic. Did you go?
Well,
did you go and
yeah,
check
I mean,
it up in attics?
One of a member of our club, and his name is Bill Pullman, had access to this information well, and he chased a lot of these. So this is the sheet for 1928, and several sheets. So they made more in 1928, and if you look at all these names, there are some of them that do make sense.
Okay.
And you can find the companies that these went to. So a lot of them went to like boat.
Oh, okay, boat
dealers
company,
and
boat
things.
dealers. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, George Pryor designs, you know, the Hartford Sturdy twin, and there were some things that are somewhat conventional, but some things that are really unconventional. And it appeared that his goal was to try to make the lightest outboard motor possible with the technology available. So one
Is
of the
that
things,
why this elongated crankcase here?
right, exactly. So a lot of old outboards, the cylinders would go all the way to a base flange.
Okay, yeah.
And George must have looked at that and said, "Oh, if I replace this cylinder base and move it up here and replace that with aluminum, a bigger crankcase, I probably save a half a pound or something." So that was part of his goal, to, you know, make a light outboard motor. And luckily, we have, for display here, a nice collection of Hartford Sturdy Twins, which is an assemblage that you don't see too often.
Now, did this original one with these black cylinder heads and then these ones with the aluminum cylinder heads,
Yeah.
are they comparable in horsepower output and speed?
We're not sure. It seems like the older cast iron cylinder ones were more powerful.
Okay.
And it looks like maybe the porting is a little bit different. And
So, what happened to the Indian? Why does that thing not run at all?
well, okay, we can talk about that.
Right.
So, okay, so take a look at the backs of these.
Okay,
Now. And,
yeah.
so at some point, these engines had above water exhaust. They're fairly loud.
Okay.
And at some point, the George Pryor said, well, maybe we should try to make a quieter version of these. And
Well, did you know there were lawsuits going on at that time on a lot of these large lakes? My Cayley brochure, 1928 Racer 30, has in the brochure that one of the things, requirements these days in the races is that they keep the mufflers on because there's been so many complaints and there were some legal actions going on at that time.
I've read about some of that.
Yeah, right.
So even these crappy above water exhaust mufflers did work a little.
Yeah.
There's a big difference if you take this off and try to run these engines. It's unbelievable
Yeah.
how loud they are being a two-stroke. So at some point these things evolved.
Is this 28 right here?
This is a late 28.
Late 28.
So this one has an underwater exhaust, much bigger. You see the size of the expansion chambers are huge,
Yes.
and
And the fin is different too. This one looks
yeah,
like...
there's a whole evolution here.
Okay,
That,
all right.
This one has an Eisman magneto. The rest of them, starting in 1928, all the way up through all Indian, were American Bosch magnetos.
Okay.
And those Bosch magnetos were made in Springfield, Mass. So same as the Indian outboard. So it became pretty easy to not
So
very
World
much
War I
shipping.
divorced the American Bosch company from the German Bosch company.
Yeah, and that was the American Bosch.
World War I did that. Say.
Yeah, there was a lot of anti-German sentiment at that time. So it.
Right. So this second late 28, why has it got a strap on the back of the muffler?
It's just a different idea. I think that it's got a different exhaust cutout. You see, this one's got like a little one here. This one's got a big one. So it's
That's
really
the early, and
part
this
of
is
the
late.
evolution, of
Okay.
these engines. And I think this strap helps hold it together. To keep
Okay.
the halves from separating, maybe.
And that's a 29.
Yeah, that's a 1929.
Oh, okay.
That's a really late one too, I think.
So this would have been what Indian bought then, basically. Was,
Yeah, this one, we can look it up. We can actually tell you what, this one, 64 of 29, I think is what it was?
So there weren't very many of these things made then. Pretty rare in
No,
Hartford.
so this is all production right here.
Okay.
And it comes out to like just over 300.
Okay. I
And,
thought there was 400 made, but only 300, huh?
No. So, 64 of 29. Oops. There we go. 64 of 29 would have gone to, I don't know if I can't quite read it. 64 of 29 would have gone to, Auto Boat Works, but I'm not sure we're looking up the right number, because I thought that, this one might have gone to Maine. There was a distributor, A.N. Smith in Portland, Maine, that started selling the marine engines from about day one, all through
Okay.
the teens and 20s, and also was a distributor for the Sturdy Twin outboard motor.
I believe that 28 went to A.M. Smith.
Okay, Okay, that one did. Yeah, okay, fine. So this one ended up in Portland, Maine. Yeah, okay. Now, yeah, my memory's coming back. So they sold out to Indian, and looking at some of the details now, one could say, wow, look at this beautiful exhaust. The Indian people made changes for sure to the Gray and prior design. From a tooling point of view, all the tooling is basically the same to manufacture these. So parts interchangeability between Hartfords and Indians are pretty good. I mean, you can look at how the lower unit is bolted on, the 4 bolts, and it's the same as this. The basic lower unit looks the same, but Indian added, redesigned the exhaust, and made it quite an attractive exhaust, by the way.